Homeschooler podcast, where we parlay on productivity, personality, passions, education, and theory. I'm a lover of Jesus, a wife of 20 years, and a homeschool mama of 4 special needs boys who keep me constantly active. I'm so glad you're here to join me. Pull up a chair, there's space for you at this table. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking around for podcast 3. Today we're going to talk about planning for sensory breaks in your homeschool day. This is showing up for you the week of Thanksgiving. With all of the sensory upheavals going on for the season, I decided to do an episode on those necessary sensory breaks throughout the day. They don't need to derail your day if you plan for them. So let's go over the children's systems that are fighting for attention, and then we'll talk about ways to set them up for success throughout the day. Now, I'm not an occupational therapist or a doctor, just a hypervigilant mama who studied a ton to help her babies and achieve success for us. Go see a professional for deeper help. These are just suggestions and they are not to be taken as medical advice. With that caveat, let's hop right into the 8 sensory systems. Wait, what? Did I just say 8? Yes. So let's start with our preschool learned 5 senses, right? We've got sight, or the visual system. We've got smell, or the olfactory system, touch, tactile, taste, gustatory, and hearing, auditory. So those are the 5 systems we're all familiar with. Now we add in the vestibular system, the proprioceptive system, and finally the interoceptive system. So let's discuss what exactly is a sensory system to begin with. The easiest definition is that it's a part of the nervous system that detects stimuli from the environment and allows the body to perceive and understand the world around it. So even without neurological differences, I think we can all agree that no 2 people understand sensory stimuli in the same way. We don't interpret any sensory signal the same as someone else. For example, I am non-olfactory. That means I was not born with a sense of smell. So my husband and I were in China working together, and we're walking past some men who were doing some work, and they had opened up the street, and then there were some pipe pieces laying next to them. Now, to me, I'm just walking along out in China, pretty cool. My husband starts running ahead, and he ducks into an alleyway, and when I walk over, he had just gotten sick. And I was confused. We had been fighting. So I was like, did you just run away from me? And he was like, no, this is the first time I've truly understood that you do not have a sense of smell. They had been doing open sewage work. And in that area, they did not treat their sewage. So it was just a raw sewage smell. And I'm just walking around like enjoying the day. My husband is vomiting because the smell was so intense. So no 2 people can perceive that sensory input the same. What about perception of color? Oh, all of us can harken back to the days of the dress, where all of us saw different colors in the dress, and it was, oh no, I forget the colors. Oh no, it's blue. Oh no, it's white. Were those the 2? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. There are different genetic variations in the cones in our eyes that cause us to perceive color differently. There's also lived experience that changes the way we perceive colors. So all in all, no 2 people theoretically experience color the same way in the entire world. What about nails on a chalkboard? Do some of you, you cannot even be in the same room when people are doing it? Versus, it bothers me. It's not like my favorite sound. I don't go to sleep listening to it, but it doesn't freak me out the way it does one of my children. So that's a different auditory perception. Then there's the feel of sequins. So I love fashion. And I will put up with sequins for a day to put on a really beautiful outfit. But I hate the feel of sequins. They drive me crazy. And by the end of the day, I'm like ripping whatever that is off. I have a really cute pair of high-waisted sequin tuxedo pants. and they cut into my belly, and I just cannot understand people who love sequins. However, one of my children actually has a therapeutic pillow that you can flip the sequins over. It's a different color on each side, and he will sit and touch that thing for, quite a while, whereas I would throw it across the room after 2 minutes. I just don't care for that feeling at all. So there is a different perception within the tactile system. So no two people experience the world sensorially in the same way. So back to the sensory systems now. What are those 3 extra systems that I mentioned? First, there's the vestibular system. Say it with me, vestibular. So this gives you a sense of the movement of the body in space and balance. So movement and balance. It's managed by our inner ear, and it coordinates our eye movements, our posture, and our equilibrium. It also detects acceleration and deceleration. So the way we're moving in space. Are we going faster, slower? Next is the proprioceptive system. This gives you a sense of your body's position in space and how much force we're using, managed by the muscle and the joint receptors. And this would be, are we hitting harder or softer? That's the proprioceptive system. And finally, the interoceptive system. This gives us a deep understanding of sensory signals within our body, like having to use the restroom or having a tummy ache or my ankle hurts, but this is why. Those are all deep interoceptive signals to our brain. Any one of these systems can be overstimulated or understimulated at times, or perhaps constantly. So what do we do? How do we address this as a loving parent? I can do an entire other podcast on overstimulation and understimulation and how to recognize the two of them. So let me know if you'd like to hear something like that. The senses need to be integrated to learn. So what can we do to help our children integrate these senses? Well, first off, you need to be a detective of sorts. Is anything recognizably causing the senses not to be integrated? Causing intense proprioceptive, vestibular, olfactic, any of the senses to have deeper needs in a certain time? Is it a subject, a texture, a time of day? You could plan breaks at that time, before or after. When does your child need those sensory breaks? And we're going to talk about different ways to achieve these sensory breaks, but as a detective, when does your child need them? Okay, let's get to that nitty-gritty then. What do these breaks need to contain? I have found that just planning a new sensory course each week to be really helpful in getting my children centered and grounded and kind of meeting those sensory needs in a fun way that keeps me present and also keeps me from stressing out that we have to take a break because I've planned these breaks. Well, what is a sensory course? We're going to go over a bunch of different options, but it's essentially, it has structure, it works all the systems in a fun way, and think of an obstacle course with a sensory paradigm. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing. In order to have a successful sensory circuit, you want to not only incorporate all of the 8 systems, but also to have large and small movements. What I thought would be helpful would be, I'm going to give a few example circuits and go over why I've included each piece. Then I thought that would kind of set your mind on the path to knowing how to set up your own sensory circuits with things that you either have around the house, that you can afford to purchase, and also that work for your specific children. For example, if we set up a circuit including a wheelbarrow walk, a scooter board, a textured walk, and mirror positions between you and your child or 2 siblings, you're checking off a bunch of sensory need checklists. So, the wheelbarrow walk. Now, this targets the proprioceptive system. When we give push or pull input during those gross motor movements, you're alerting the bones and joints in a fun way. orienting them to the level of force being used and providing calming sensory input. So the wheelbarrow walk is something that's going to alert their bones and joints that, oh, I'm moving, and oh, I'm getting that deep pressure need that I have sometimes met in a fun, silly, crazy way. Next up, a scooter board. This targets vestibular system. You're working on your core balance, on your posture, as well as providing acceleratory and deceleratory input. Now, some of you might ask, well, what is a scooter board? Okay, so if you're my age, I'm not telling you what that is, but if you were a child of the 80s, you might remember sitting on a scooter board. It had a handle on either side, your little butt went on top of it, and you got to visit like a town or a village on this scooter board as if it was your car and you were a grown-up. It was like my favorite day in gym class, and we did it every year, I think first through maybe fifth grade. So it was an elementary school, village on a scooter board day. And it works your posture, it works your coordination. You're going faster, you're going slower, you're purposefully bumping into some of your friends. But that is what a scooter board is. And I'll link in my Amazon account, which I'll put in the show notes, the scooter board that we have in our home. So we talked about first the wheelbarrow walk, then the scooter board. Next, textured walk. Okay, now what on earth can that mean? This is going to provide different sensory textures in an ordered and structured way. You can make these little squares yourself or purchase the ones I've used. The first one, maybe your child steps on or touches with his hands. What does your child need this input from? Feet or hands, or rubs it against his face? But maybe the first one feels like river rocks. There are specific boards like that, or like I said, you can go out and get some river rocks from a nature walk. Maybe the next one might be dried rice and you rub your feet or your hands in it. Next, how about rough sand? So you put some glue on a piece of cardboard and you glue sand on there and you feel that on your hands or under your feet. This would not be sensory sand. This is actual rough sand. And finally, what about fur or cotton, like cotton pulled or cotton balls? This provides kinesthetic input as well as proprioceptive again. And some of these can be warm, some can be cool from the fridge, or even frozen, so really cold from the freezer. So you're kind of alerting those different temperature systems within the body through the kinesthetic system. These are good ways to incorporate different things that your children might need from the textured walk. Is there a calming texture to them? Is there one that excites their senses? So maybe that one can go at the beginning and you can work your way toward the calming sense. And finally, in this particular one, I mentioned mirrored positions between you and your child or between two siblings. Now, this works on your visual or ocular system, and depending on the movements, you're going to be working your kinesthetic system, proprioceptive, or vestibular. You want to work in some bilateral balance movements here for sure. Now, wait a second, this is another word. Let's talk about bilateral stimulation. There's two different systems included under this umbrella term: vestibular, bilateral, integration system, or postular, ocular bilateral integration system. Both boil down to using both sides of the body in a coordinated way. So you can tell right away, postural ocular system is going to have to do with your vision holding your posture in a certain way that then all your muscles are compliant with. And the vestibular bilateral integration system has to do with our inner ear finding balance for both sides of the body when we're working both of them, such as in a run or a march. So again, I can do a whole podcast on just bilateral integration, but for these sensory circuits, the point is engaging the posture using both sides of the body separately, but in a coordinated manner. So back to our mirror positions. What kind of positions best evoke this desire, this sensory need? How about standing on one foot with both arms raised in a high X position? This is the yoga tree pose, or similar to it. What about marching in mirror? So you march on your right foot rises and your child's left foot rises. So that's working the brain, that's working balance and coordination. Also, there's the cross-body stretch, where you're standing and your body's in the position of an X, and you're going to bring your right hand down to meet your left foot, and then bring your right hand up, left foot down, then bring your left hand down to meet your right foot, and put that back up, put your right foot down, and so on and so forth. You're crossing the midline of the body. And finally, holding your arms out in a T shape, putting, say, your right finger to your nose, and then extending your right hand out to meet your left hand on the left side of your body. And I was a cheerleader in high school, and I call that side pom-poms, because your legs are in the shape of an X, and both hands are out to one side, and now you picture shaking the pom-poms on the side. Okay, so those were your mirrored positions. Let's go through one more circuit for you to help you spread your own wings to make your own. So our second example, we might do a slack line, G-board, or just a 2x4 or a 2x6 for a balance walk. Next, we'll do wall or chair push-ups. Then we'll blow some bubble towers, and we'll finish with some animal walks. So, our balance walk will target the vestibular system, the one that recognizes the movement of the body in space. It focuses bilateral integration, including postural, ocular, and also increases that leg and core strength. These are both very desirable outcomes. Next, we'll add in maybe some wall or chair push-ups. This is focused heavy work. Now, this is another term that's important. Let's learn a little bit about heavy work. The definition of heavy work is an activity that provides information to the muscles and joints of the body, as well as a cardiovascular challenge to improve heart and lung endurance. Many also challenge balance and coordination through varying head or body positions in space. So, info to muscles and joints, we heard that key term. That's the proprioceptive system. Then balance and coordination, quote unquote, body in space. That's the vestibular system. Are you getting it? So, heavy work activities are included for both vestibular and proprioceptive, as well as strengthening, because that's just healthy for life. Besides wall and chair push-ups, you can push furniture, have your child push furniture, or a play wheelbarrow filled with various weighted items, kneading dough in that hard way, or carrying heavy objects. This can also translate into lots of different work elements around the house, like digging a hole in the back to plant some plants, or carrying the laundry basket from the laundry room up the stairs to wherever you're going to fold it. These are helpful movements, good sensorially, but also good for life. So that was our balance walk and our push-ups. Next was blowing a bubble tower. So you can do this in the sink or a pie plate, but the point is to use a straw and have your child fill up their cheeks to blow. This engages the tactile and the oral motor system. Finally, I threw in some animal walks. Now, these are really fun. This includes the crab walk, which is where your tummy is up to the sky and your arms are backwards. The bear walk, which is actually done in a lot of CrossFit classes, and you can go from just being on your toes and your hands to only using your fingertips and your hands, to using elbows, to doing army walks. So the bear walk is army crawls. The bear walk is really able to be played around with. And finally, the alligator walk. Okay, so this is where you drag your legs behind you like a tail. So you're only using your arms to pull your entire body along. That one's a lot of fun too. These are more proprioceptive and bilateral input for your systems. You can add the olfactic or scent system with essential oils. Peppermint and lavender, sometimes vanilla, are the most calming scents, but follow your child's nose. So you can diffuse these throughout the house with a diffuser, or place a drop on your child's shoulder, either shoulder, or put a cotton ball with a few drops on it inside a plastic bag for inhalation whenever they want. So there's your olfactic system. How about the auditory system? Well, what type of music is most calming to your child? Classical, folk music, orchestral film music, that was my children's. So from Star Wars soundtrack or from Lost, the show, play it only for that sensory circuit time. How about the visual system? Well, you can use some blue light or therapeutic glasses to kind of give those calming impressions to the visual sensory system. The key to all of this is you, right? Make it a game. Your presence and playfulness make all the difference. Planning these breaks, a little pre-setup, this will change it from a last-minute stress builder for you to a playful distraction that will prepare your child for the next lesson or the horror of seat work. Because they've had all these sensory inputs and now their body's ready to be calm for a little while. So we're wrapping up now. In the show notes, you'll find some links to products that we've used. These are Amazon affiliate links, and all that means is that Amazon gives us a tiny little bit of money when you order through those links. So that would be really great to help us out, but it's also products that I have personally used and vouched for. I hope the thought of planning these sensory breaks has inspired and encouraged you. Happy Thanksgiving all. Next week, I'm going to be talking about planning in seasons of rest. The biblical season of rest has got me so inspired as I start to get geared up to plan 2025. So I really hope you'll follow the show and join me next week. Thanks for coming back for podcast 3. If you liked the podcast, please leave me a 5-star review, follow the show, and if you can write a review, that makes all the difference to all the different algorithms so that this podcast can get out to other mamas and hopefully encourage. Happy Thanksgiving all. Remember, friends, I believe in you.